Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Town of Wilton Town Board meeting for May 7th. Before we begin, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to acknowledge the May 6th passing of a long-term highway employee. This is not very good. No. So Rick McCain, but he liked to be called Rich, worked for the Highway Department for over 30 years, and he passed away. He retired about 5 years ago and just passed away, and he will be deeply, deeply missed by the people at the Highway Department. So, and thank you very much. All right, I think I'm not going to bother with the speakers. So calling the board meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sue, do you want to do roll call?
Supervisor Stark.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor.
Thank you.
Rowan.
Present.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
And Councilman Keneally.
Here.
And Councilwoman Colligan is excused. Thank you.
And I'd like to start the meeting formally with the presentation of a plaque to the family members of Robin Corrigan. Robin was the director at the Senior Center and was very, very active in her care and her attentiveness to all the seniors that came there. She would go out of her way cooking meals for them, and she just went above and beyond. So if the family would like to come up, her sister, Ann Collins, her brother, Steve Green, and her father, Ralph Green. And I understand her husband was unable to be here tonight, but he's here in spirit. Yes. So.
That's nice, very nice, beautiful. And we'd like to have it be hung at seniors if we could.
I wanted to ask you if that's what you would like.
Yes.
Okay, so Scott, he's here somewhere, he's there. Yeah, so, and here's a lovely plaque of appreciation with her photo and,
Nice job. Thank you guys very much.
and she had an emergency come up, so.
I'll give her a call and see how she's doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and we're really sorry for your loss, and she's a big loss.
It was shocking. It was a shock. Yes. Wow.
So we'll hang on to this and get it moved. All right, thank you. Sue, are there anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, Charlie Pickett, please.
Yeah, if you could speak into the microphone, and that's the best way for the recording to
Yes.
get what you say.
Hopefully. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to come and address an issue which I see with some property that the town obtained about 3 years ago from myself. It was to be used as a forever wild open space. And right here is that property. I tried to show you a picture on the map, but it's basically on the west side, the east side of town off of Ruggles Road, extending back towards Edie Road. And it's basically 87 acres. It was done as part of a transfer. One of the developers in town received what was known as transferable development rights to develop additional lots instead of developing that property, and the property was turned over to the town. Basically, I don't think it's really being maintained very well as an open space. There's currently an increased amount of use of property as by the off-road vehicles, motorcycles, ATVs. There also is some deposition or dumping on the property, such things as construction debris, burn barrels, other materials. While I can't say that it's coming from adjoining property owners, I have a strong feeling it is. I think a lot of the off-road vehicle use is coming from adjoining property owners. It basically surrounds one property on 3 sides and another property on 2 sides. And basically, I see the situation getting worse. From the time I left last fall to now, they've been developed some, call it motocross courses, moguls put in, dug up the soil, cut down trees, push back trees with a front end loader or a tractor with a bucket on the front or something. So basically, I wish to identify it to the town and hope you can take some action to improve that. I'll be very willing to work with the town on that. There are some definite access points to those adjoining properties directly onto the areas that are under concern. And bottom line to me is if the town really doesn't want to maintain it, I'll be happy to take the property back.
So
Yes.
it was acquired during the process of a transfer of development rights.
Yes, that process took about 2 years, and in June of 2023, the property was transferred to the town. And I referenced in there the town board meeting and the sections of the code under which it was transferred.
So Ryan, you're sort of the person who has your finger on the pulse of all of these
Yeah, I haven't
parcels.
been out to the property. Scott and I went out to the property last year. We noticed some of the debris out there, and we believe we put up new signs, because there is one parcel there, so we haven't been out this year to take a look at it. I can see from your photos, they do have a more active trail than
Yes.
was last year.
Yeah, I see one sign, which is on the gate, which is on Ruggles Road. I don't see any other access points with signs on them. If we put them up, they've come down.
Yeah, so we can put up some more signs. We can have code enforcement knock on the door and let them be aware that they're trespassing and destroying town property.
And the sheriff out there as well.
And the sheriff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the property was mine, I did work with the town about 12 to 10 years ago, Mark Mikens, and we got the DEC involved because they were riding across my property, town property, into Nature Conservancy property, wetlands. We also got the county sheriff involved, and we did go and talk with the people, and at that point, that was effective along with some of the people that were doing it kind of aged out. They were no longer minors. They weren't going to be treated as minors, and so at that point, it helped a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you leave us a contact information for you? It's on your,
My name, my
okay,
address, and my phone number, and my email address.
okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Joanne Klepetar.
Hi. Two things. One has to do with the Highway Department, and I was wondering whether, because we've been unsuccessful in having our speed reduced on Parkers, whether we can get some of those awesome slow-down signs that are over at Gavin Park, maybe a couple of those, placed on Parkhurst. And my second thing is in regards to the comptroller's report of expenditures for the pickleball. I'm sure Maria will be explaining it all, and I just hope that it wasn't underbid just to get the contract. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, and requesting a motion to approve last month's minutes.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
Someone second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And no abstentions. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is regarding 11 Rose Terrace and a request for lot line adjustments. And do we have folks who are going to talk about it? Okay.
Hi, we're Susan and Scott Wertans. We moved into our house at 11 Rose Terrace, and on the one edge of our driveway to the retention pond that was built as part of the community, there's a small strip of land that we've been maintaining as part of our house, because it basically, the edge of the driveway and the grass, the property line is the edge of the driveway. In fact, even a piece of the driveway is actually, when they built the house, was on town property.
Since 2017.
Yes. So what we'd like to do, if we could, since we've been maintaining it since then, is, and it's not anything anyone could build anything else on, is we would hope that we could get a lot adjustment. I only brought one map with me, but the house will see that. And some pictures of the little piece of land. It's all along the trees. And the little shed they put on there, it's not a permanent fixture, it's just a shed on some gravel.
Ryan, engineering-wise, I see it's a stormwater management area. What impact might transferring ownership have on,
There'd be no impact with this particular parcel. There's a large vegetative buffer there.
Yep.
The access to the stormwater management for servicing the stormwater management area is on the other side of that. So this parcel really doesn't have a significant need for the town, other than being a buffer, which, if they take ownership of it, they would then be the buffer as well. So.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys thought that you had this when you bought the house, right?
We did. We thought, matter of fact, the day of the closing, they came and took half of our driveway away. I'm like, what's going on? They had, crushed stone.
Right.
So in order to get the closing, they had to make our driveway like this big.
Right.
And then Dave Jumansky was the builder. Right a couple of days after the closing, he's like, don't worry about it. I'll talk to the town and then the next thing you know, we ended up getting it paved and had the full driveway.
Right.
So we have been dealing with Dave for the last 8.5 years. But he says he wanted to get it, secure this problem for us. And then he ended up selling his house, and now he's moved. He's no longer here, and the town took it over.
Right.
So
I think the town
he was
always
going to have it signed over to us 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of silly, if we ever do try to sell a house,
Right.
we'd have to say, by the way, you only own this much of the driveway.
Yeah. Right.
And it's beautiful property where I've been maintaining it. And even my sprinkler heads are on that property line.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you've been maintaining it that long,
we have it
Right.
for 9 years.
Yeah.
And we don't plan on doing anything to it other than what we've done. It's just
Right,
basically
take care of it,
grass
make it look beautiful.
and bushes and flowers.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, are there any, because it encroaches upon a stormwater area, any restrictions about size of shrubbery or shrubs that might turn into trees, or types of plantings, things with deep roots?
They're not going to go beyond the existing buffer, the vegetative buffer that's there. so there's nothing that they would impact on. There's a gravel drive access to maintain the stormwater area that's going to be beyond that, so.
And matter of fact, Andy Jansky had a whole row of white pines planted right on this side of that crushed stone driveway. So the driveway is behind it. We just,
That's the
you know,
buffer that Ryan's
Right.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
My question, broader than like this, a builder that sells land that's not theirs, how do we prevent that from happening? I mean, it's just a one-time weird fluke?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just a weird, surveyors.
Yeah.
and we literally were told that it was part of our property. And then, the day of the closing, I was like, well, what are you gonna do? You just built, $1 million house, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like they've been maintaining it for 9 years, and you thought you had it. I have no issue with.
Well, there's a little bit of a legal process.
Right.
Yeah, could you, or Mark, can,
Well, yes, Council, so we've gotten information from Brian Reichenbach from Council's office back in November that if the town wants to convey the property, that there has to be a finding that the town doesn't need the property for town purposes, which I think we've established.
Right.
And must establish fair market value for the sale or the easement. And then once that is done, the town board can resolve to make the grant or easement and proceed to notice a permissive referendum. Okay? So,
Does everybody understand what that means? It's legal mumbo jumbo, it doesn't mean it goes to a vote.
Right.
It means if enough people, based on a very archaic formula, file a request for it to go to a vote, it doesn't, because that basically never happens.
Right.
right.
Okay.
So what would be the next step if we're in agreement that we want to convey this property to...
Adopt a resolution to do so subject to permissive referendum and authorize publication of the notice.
Okay. I'll make the motion of what he just said.
I'll second it.
Sue,
are you going to repeat that? I was hoping someone else.
Sue's got it.
What about the assessment? Who's getting the assessment?
What's the square footage of this?
It should be right on there.
Yeah.
180 by 35.
I couldn't have.
I mean, is that something that we could ask our town assessor to do?
6,300.
I mean, why would the town assessor not be responsible for the assessment for the town? Is what I'm asking. That's not.
Yeah, so you got 6,300 square feet, which isn't, I mean, you can't really build anything on it. It's not like it has the value of, a residential building lot. I suppose we could ask the assessor, in that
Get a ballpark number just to...
ballpark number, what 6,300 square feet of land in that subdivision is worth.
It is a very appropriate course, and it's likely to be a fairly small number.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Would you add that to your resolution, that the assessor would make a judgment?
So it would be pending an assessed value by our,
It doesn't need to be part of the resolution,
Yeah.
but that is an appropriate process.
Right.
can you repeat the words again for that? Yeah, she's got it? Okay. Yeah.
Great.
All right. So,
We'll have a hearing, we'll establish a
Did we vote? I
value
don't-
through the assessor's office, and then we'll let you folks know what that number is.
Yeah, Ray made
so do you want to request a vote for that motion? We didn't vote.
Well, I made a motion.
Yeah, for the resolution.
Okay, so I'm requesting someone to second?
I seconded.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, unanimously
Thank you.
adopted. Thank you. All right, the next item is the beginning of a process for a code amendment regarding temporary merchant certificate, and I'm going to let Connor take this on since he's been running the Code and Zoning Revision Committee.
Yeah, this is one of the things that came out of the committee, submission by Ryan Raper. Essentially, temporary merchants that come to town that are, believe it or not, temporary. They don't have a permanent location. You can think of it like, imagine like a fruit stand, would, for example, would be a temporary merchant. And this doesn't do a ton. Essentially, it changes, it works on the permitting process. It streamlines permitting. It makes it simpler, gives more flexibility to a temporary merchant who might want to come. Currently, you can only get a permit for 5 months. This makes it 6. There is a secondary planning board approval necessary for subsequent years that we're striking to essentially give these people a little easier of a time. It brings them into some regulatory compliance, in addition to ensuring that they have permission from the landowner for a certificate of liability insurance, and permission from the town. And Ryan, do you want to add anything?
No.
Does this include food trucks?
No.
So if it's a permanent location for long duration, if it's a, one-night food truck event.
So the fireworks vendor who's around for a week or two, it sets up a tent, is not very...
That is a temporary merchant.
But it's not a permanent location, but they're staying in one place for their duration?
Correct.
Right.
Temporary merchant.
And I'll say we got some notes on this from Brian Reichenbach, and there's going to be some changes between now and a public hearing next month, should we set a public hearing, but nothing so substantial as to change the heart of the amendments.
All right.
So the goal here is simplification and streamlining?
Simplification, streamlining, yeah, and ensuring compliance.
And again, the food trucks, so like food trucks at Park Fest, not under this heading.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and request a motion to approve.
I move we set a public hearing.
To set a public hearing, sorry.
For next month?
For the next month's town board meeting?
June 4th.
Set a public hearing for June 4th at 7 PM here.
Second.
Okay. And this is pending the final version and review
We'll have that at the public hearing.
by town council.
Yeah.
You'll have it well before the public hearing.
Right.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Who seconded that?
I think Ray.
Right, thank you.
The next item is on BESS moratorium. It's also an issue that the Code and Zoning Revision Committee has been working on. And I'll again turn this over to Connor.
Sure. So, battery energy storage systems, they are, imagine like a huge, all right, it's two things. One, you can have them commercial, so it's a big battery that stores energy and can deploy it depending on whatever, algorithm is running through the system. You can have small battery energy storage systems that are residential, so for example, a Tesla charger. Right now, a lot of communities in New York State are facing a regulatory issue where there is tremendous pressure from battery energy storage system companies to install these facilities where it's permitted. Now, because it's a new technology, a lot of towns do not have permanent code that applies to this technology, meaning that you can build it wherever you want. Now, there are a lot of different ways that these can be constructed and a lot of different ways that they can, a lot of different chemical elements that change how it works. There are some cheaper ones, there are some more expensive ones, and the reality is that a lot of our, and not to say ours in Wilton necessarily, but a lot of the state's municipalities simply don't have the infrastructure in place to deal with these facilities in the case of a disaster. So it's not, if there were to be some sort of disaster, a fire, for example, it's not common, but it does happen. The chemical composition of battery energy storage is going to change the way that they have to put out that fire. And depending on what is actually comprising the battery, they may or may not be able to put it out. It might just have to burn out on its own. There are a lot of toxic chemicals that are associated with certain types of these battery energy storage systems. But as the technology is developed, safety protocols have come to be as quick as the technology has proliferated. So right now, we want to pass a moratorium, or at least I do, that it is for 12 months, that bans this in town, so that we can do our due diligence, talk to a number of key stakeholders, educate the public, and figure out what kind of batteries are acceptable here and where, so that we can put this in permanent code and ensure that, these companies, if we find that there are places and elements of the technology that are appropriate for Wilton, can come here and contribute to the community. Because the reality is, even though there are a lot of, there's a lot in the air about safety with these facilities, there are also a lot of benefits. I think we've all seen energy bills recently. There's a lot of talk about AI data centers, but the reality is that we have a tremendous issue in supply chains where there are not only shortages of the things that you use to build transistors and to modernize our technology, but they're also, being shipped from overseas where they have a lot of extra taxes on them. So BESS is one way that we can modernize our grid and ensure that that energy costs can once again become reasonable for household consumers. So there are big trade-offs here, and we just want 12 months or hopefully less to navigate the issue and to create code that works for the town.
So to sort of simplify, one of the main ways that this works, and correct me if I don't say this right, is that it takes in power from the grid when there is lots of power being generated, and it stores it for times when the grid is not as active or is running potentially low, and that's the sort of the main...
That's one of the ways. That's one of the ways that it can work. So for example, if you have a BESS facility near solar, for example, and when it's dark out, you can still get energy to homes because it's stored in the battery. And what Tony's referencing is, like, if off-peak hours, when there's not that much energy being used, you can charge this facility, and then when electricity is in very, very high demand, you can deploy it so that we don't have to rely on natural gas or fire up coal plants in order to provide electricity, which not only translates to a better environment, but also cheaper rates for consumers.
All right.
And we want to ban it for 12 months or less.
So requesting to set up a public hearing to look at setting a 12-month moratorium on battery energy storage systems.
I'd like to suggest 3 very minor proposed revisions. Some will call them picky proposed revisions. The first one is on page 3, section 4, called moratorium imposed. The second line where it says no application shall be accepted and continues with and no building permit, etc. I'm proposing to add the words or processed after accepted. So it says no application shall be accepted or processed, etc., etc. That's my first proposed revision. My second proposed revision is on page 6, section 9, it's called termination. The first phrase is, "This moratorium may be terminated by the town board." And then it goes on to say, "Earlier than expiration upon enactment of legislation." I'm proposing a revision after the words "town board" to say, "upon its discretion," meaning upon the town board's discretion, and/or earlier than the expiration. Which in other words means that if you decide sometime before the, expiration, and there's no enactment of local legislation, you make a policy decision to terminate the moratorium, you would have the authority to do that. And my third proposed revision, super important, is in section 10, letter B as in boy. The second line makes reference to town attorney. Despite the popular use of that term, neither I nor anyone else is the Wilton town attorney. We're the town, our firm, myself and our firm is the town's legal counsel. And that's counsel, S-E-L.
So in the section above saying this moratorium may be terminated by the town board upon its discretion, comma, earlier than the expiration, you added another phrase.
Yeah, I didn't have a comma, although you can if you want. After discretion, I said and/or earlier than the expiration. Basically means if you change your mind as a matter of policy and decide we don't need to have this moratorium in place, you can simply terminate it.
Great.
All right, thank you. So,
I'll make a
One
motion.
more comment. I could wait till after you act on this, but I guess I'll say it now. I want to make sure the board and the public know that there's some chance of, despite the moratorium, facilities could come into existence if they're blessed by the State Office of Renewable Energy site. That would be a different issue, but that could happen. I just want to make sure people understand that enacting the moratorium at the local level doesn't necessarily mean it can't happen.
Right.
but if we then put in place code that either does a uniform ban or has very, very clear restrictions on how best could come into the town, then we would be protected from being overrode by the state?
Absolutely not. We'd be protected for facilities that don't require the state authorization. It's also remotely possible, I shouldn't say remotely, it's also possible that the State Office of Renewable Energy Siting could end up taking the position that they'll only approve with the blessing of the local municipality. I don't want to make that prediction, but it's at least legally possible.
I'll also flag that my understanding is that it is not legal to ban it townwide, because it can be regulated as a public utility. Is that right?
Potentially.
Yeah, that's more or less what I'm getting.
Right.
It's marginal.
No.
I've been looking at it quite a bit, as you know.
Yeah. Eric is serving on the committee. He's a 30-year EPA vet and very helpful to this best process.
It's over 25 megawatts, so that's a big deal. Those are huge facilities. So the chance of it being here, the siting issues, it's a very complex thing to deploy, especially that big, but there is no bit about public utility in anything that I've seen so far. So they aren't regulated that way. It's just that less than 25 megawatts, or if they do a joint, like a solar battery energy storage, and it's a big facility, then forest would step in. So but how's that going to happen here? Hard to know. It's pushing. It's amazing what's going on right now. The data center growth and the demands on the grid, you don't think it's not going to happen, because it is. It's like a tidal wave. Come on, a tsunami.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing at
June 4th, 7:01.
June 4th, 7:01 for a moratorium on battery energy storage systems.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
One more point before we vote, just to add, the Emergency Services Planning Committee discussed this at our meeting, and the firemen would be, I think, and I hope they will come and speak at the public hearing, but I think they will speak very much in favor of this.
Of the moratorium.
Of the moratorium. They are aware of this as an issue, and it's an issue for them from a firefighting perspective, that if you have a thermal runaway, there's not much they can do.
Right.
And that's their major concern.
All right, all in favor of passing moratorium?
Aye.
Aye. And
hearing.
anyone opposed? No. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item is a discussion and to set a public hearing on updating the fees charged by the building department. And this is something that we've worked on that primarily our two folks, our main folks in the building department, John Herlihy and Marcus Hart, have worked on. We have not updated our building department fees in many, many years. And it's a not insignificant source of revenue for the town. So what was done was that all the nearby towns, and there's some copies over there on the corner of the table. It's a 8x17 sheet, so it's an Excel spreadsheet. They gathered information from all the surrounding towns and what they were charging, so that the changes that we make are really in keeping and appropriate for this current environment, but also understanding that the town of Wilton has no town tax. So, you know, in that sense, our prices, we feel, should probably be most closely aligned with a town like Malta, which is a similar population size, about 18,000, and also a town with no town tax. So the final recommendations for the town of Wilton, the first column on the left is what Wilton currently has, and then the final column on the right is what's being recommended. And there's some places that reference actual sections of the town code, but in general, I think there's been a fair amount of work with the building department that they put into these recommendations, and they really, I think, are appropriate, but that'll be up for discussion at public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing for, what are we at 7:15 now?
7:02.
Can I ask a couple questions, quick? Just looking at these fees. First is, wondering, single-wide manufactured home and double-wide manufactured home, is that paid by the, it's gotta be paid by the landlord, right?
It's generally paid by the applicant.
Do you know who's applying? Is it the owner of the lot that's applying, or the renter of the lot?
It's generally the renter.
And it's usually the renter is the owner of the home, but they're renting the lot. So,
and can I, commercial stop work posting removal, could you bring me through a little bit about like what that actually entails?
Generally, commercial stop work will come get issued, so in my experience, I haven't had it issued on a commercial project.
Right.
But if they're doing something that isn't, if they're not following the plans in some way, if they're not doing something on the site-wise that isn't in keeping with the code, we would go out there and post a stop work until they remedied whatever it is that they were doing wrong.
Right.
And then, in order for us to take that placard down, that's
right.
and it's interesting, Half Moon, which is also somewhat of a sister community, you know, they charge a pretty stiff fee for the removal of the stop work posting, $500 for either commercial or residential. And you guys are proposing really $100 for residential and 300 for commercial.
And then the manufacturer, how much revenue do we, just like a ballpark or even a guess? And is that,
I couldn't give you a number.
is that, do you know if it's annual? It's a one-time fee.
For
So it's a single-wide manufactured home fee type. Is that like a one-time fee or is that a recurring?
the permit? Yes,
One time.
yes.
And then residential and commercial solar, you know, we're proposing something that is significantly above the rate at which other towns have for something that it strikes me as something that we'd want to incentivize. Do we have, is there, I'm just wondering what the logic is there.
Well, I mean, a lot of towns also, it's not here, but based on the price per square foot of the array size, and I mean, it's generally the minimum fee is what is paid because it doesn't usually exceed the square footage to arrive at the.
Oh, got it, okay.
Number.
Yeah. But it would prohibit like a,
Roofs of single-family homes is where these are going, and it's usually half the entire roof, and the square footage doesn't generally come out to be over that $150 minimum.
right.
And right now, it's well at 50.
I mean, yeah.
If you're going to be working, though, in Code and Zoning Revision Committee, specifically on the solar issue, then perhaps we should, and you're going to apply more thought to this, perhaps we should remove those two items and let you tackle it specifically.
Yeah, or we could just talk about it on Monday, and then, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Yeah, and then we
about
can
it
set a
in-
public hearing now, and then we can make some minor revisions between now and then. Yep.
If that works.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or
All for you?
Yeah, that's what this is out there for.
Beautiful. Love it.
And I guess one of the questions I had was that solar, in a lot of the way it's discussed, is really based on the megawatt size. And this is sort of dividing it into commercial versus residential. But then you also have a system that divides it into 4 different tiers, and each tier has a megawatt size criteria, going from 1 being the smallest to 4 being the largest. So, you know, that would be something you're probably going to dig into.
Well, but this is about
more.
land use, because it's per square foot. I mean, I have some thoughts, but we'll talk about it.
But also, well, yeah, good. That sounds good. All right. Excellent.
I'll move we set a public hearing for June 4th at 7:03?
Second?
7:02 we're still at.
7:02. 7:02 here.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. No one opposed? And no abstentions? Thank you. The next item to talk about, Wilton Wildlife Preserve and Park requesting a building be demolished. And Ray, go ahead and...
Yeah, so for many months, Margot, members of the board of trustees of the Wilton Wildlife Preserve, Steve and Larry are here. Ryan, Scott, and I have been deliberating over taking one of the old buildings down at the Wilton Wildlife Preserve, and the Wilton Wildlife Preserve would construct a new building that would serve multiple purposes, one of which is consolidating their operations in one place. And they sent us a draft memorandum of understanding about responsibilities on both parts. This is on town-owned land, after all. And the sum and substance of the memorandum of understanding is that Scott will use his town time, town equipment to do the demolition. No additional cost to the town other than the equipment and his time that we've already got on the books. Ryan also is going to be helping in terms of semi-supervising the project. And then the actual building construction, the carting away of the demolished materials is all going to be provided by the Wilton Wildlife Preserve. So there's no cost to the town other than some staff time and equipment in use. Margot or gentleman in the back, anything else you want to add to that?
So the only thing that I think to add to that is that we did receive a state grant that we'll be able to get some of our costs reimbursed, so that I'm working with the state now to modify the grant from being renovation to the demolition of the new building. So in the original with the renovation, the town had agreed way back, there was a town board resolution to get the grant, that there would be in-kind from the town provided to offset some of the costs of the project. And so again, with this demolition and the town providing this in-kind, it's keeping that contribution that the town had already made a commitment to for the project, but just doing it in a different way. Instead of the renovation, it will be for the demolition.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so there were a couple of minor revisions that we went over, Ryan and I and the folks on the Wilton Wildlife Preserve, just before the meeting tonight. I don't know if you want to mention those, Ryan.
Yeah, this is a memorandum of understanding between Wilton Wildlife and the town. We'll take a look at this in, final, before we sign it, we'll make sure these are taken care of. But a couple items that we would change is just minor text changes of, what Wilton, the town of Wilton will provide, such as, grading instead of, grading site work. It's just going to be rough grading, and that the Wilton Wildlife will apply for a building permit for the structure, and that the Wilton Wildlife will work with the town, building department for the, needs and specifications. So we'll take care of these items before we do the final signing of the document.
So with those revisions, I don't know if there are any other questions, but yes, ma'am?
Just a quick question, and I'm sure that this is the way it's going to work out. Is Wilton Wildlife going to be cutting the checks out of the Wilton Wildlife account?
That's what we've done for the whole, the first part of the project, phase one, so we've paid all the checks. So the town is not involved in spending any money.
Very good, thank you.
Good answer.
Do you have a sense how long that demolition would take? I'm guessing not a long time.
Yeah, a couple of days. Yeah. And since
We have volunteers who are coming tomorrow, who are going to be finishing cleaning out the building and doing the work that needs to be done. So when Scott is ready to do that, he has a clean slate that we won't have anything in his way, so we'll be able to do it as efficiently as possible.
And since Scott, I think, retires in 16 more days, it should get started within the next 16 days. 11 days, even better.
I'd like to put the value of the donated asset, which is in essence what this is going to be, on the books. So when the project is complete, if you have a complete set of figures for me for the actual amount spent on procuring the building, that would be fabulous. Thank you. Thanks.
We can work together on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So unless there are any other questions, I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the couple of revisions that Ryan had.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed and no abstentions. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is requesting a motion for the town of Wilton to request bids for ADA-compliant doors. We do not have any doors that someone who's in a wheelchair can push the big button and the doors will automatically open. So we're requesting one such door in each of our main buildings, which means Gavin Park, Town Hall, Town Court, the Senior Center, and the Highway Department. And these doors run about $8,000 a set.
We talked about some sort of grant for that, right?
Yeah, there's potentially an economic development grant, however, that has yet to be decided as to whether or not that grant is going to be used for that purpose.
Right.
So since these are, long-lived improvements, or hopefully will be long-lived improvements
Right.
to our structures, this could be capitalized and we can use our fund balance if there is no grant available for the expenditures.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we go out to bid for the ADA compliant doors.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And no abstentions, motion passes unanimously. Next item is a simple announcement. We received a letter of resignation from Marty Ledoux from the Board of Assessment Review.
We do need to accept her resignation.
So not just an announcement. So requesting a motion to accept this resignation.
I'll make that motion with regret. I think Marty's been in that position for a very long time. And we appreciate Marty's service.
I'll second with thanks.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And any abstentions? No. Motion passes unanimously. The next item is requesting a motion for a 30-day waiver for a liquor license by Rustic Pizza. And Sue?
Brian Bromley has requested this before, but he ran out of time, so he is requesting it again, and hopefully get that. It's beer, wine, and soda. Beer, wine, and cider.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's in process of
Yes.
applying for their license.
I'll make a motion to approve the 30-day waiver.
I'll second.
And all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No abstentions? Okay, motion passes unanimously. The next item, committee reports. Connor, do you want to start with
Yeah, I'll do safety committee.
Safety committee?
Well, the highway department completed ADU CPR and stop the bleed training.
Let me just clarify, safety committee is town complex, like an internal safety,
Right.
so it's safety for our employees in our buildings, and that's the kind of safety that this committee is dealing with.
Right.
So go ahead.
These happened on April 28th and April 29th. We are all safer for them, and we thank the organizers and the highway department. For the Code and Zoning Revision Committee, we had a very productive last meeting where we passed that BES moratorium. We recommended the temporary merchants language. There was a third code revision that is related to engineered breakaway points on cell towers that we're just waiting, it went through, waiting to hear back from some cell service providers just to make sure that everything is, that they're jiving with it. And we have another meeting on Monday where I think we probably have more to look at than we can chew. We're going to look at lighting regulation. We currently don't have anything in our code for lighting. So there's a draft that we'll be discussing. We are going to look at our temporary sign code, as there's a Supreme Court case, Gilbert v. Arizona, that said that essentially local governments cannot have content-based sign policies in their code because it's akin to government censorship when you have to have a government official that determines what set of regulations a certain sign code actually applies to. And we're looking at some of these fees, and there are a couple working groups that created gap analysis reports that we're going to take a look at on Monday. There are three. There's one for Best and Solar. There's one for comprehensive plan, sort of looking at all of our comp plan and seeing where there are deviations between what is on paper and what's in our code and in our zoning. And also a Hamlet working group to see where we can fix some things in our code and zoning to incentivize the creation of the sort of H1 zone that we want to see. So that is what we're looking at there.
Sounds like you are very busy.
We're very busy. Have a lot of great people in the room to help.
All right, Joe, do you want to report on Alternative Transportation
Sure,
Committee?
Alternative Transportation Committee had our monthly meeting yesterday, so I don't have any minutes to share with you, but we had a nice discussion about the bicycle access project at Gavin Park, and between our first meeting and yesterday's meeting, you and I and Steve and Joanne met with the town's insurance broker, who gave a very positive assessment of this project at Gavin Park, that it would be no additional impact to the town in terms of liability. In his experience, there's never been an issue with this kind of signage and markings that would have any insurance liability impact. So that was good news from that.
But the question was very specific, raised by a town board member at the last meeting, that if you have signage indicating bicycle access at a point where there's not yet a multi-use path providing access to the beginning of the Gavin Park access position, and that was really the main point to try and clarify, which he said, yeah, he felt that in all his 40 years of experience doing municipal insurances, that was simply not an issue, that liability of that interface between the existence of a designated pathway and the non-existence.
So we hope to come back, and we may come back next month with a formal request to apply for the county trails grant to accomplish this small project. And again, it would be in anticipation of the Carr Jones multi-use path. So going first is okay, I think, in my mind, because it's in anticipation of that, which will be coming, I guess, we hope, in 27? 27. So this would be just a little bit in advance of that. And again, a mostly public education and informational effort. We also had a kind of a longish discussion about e-bikes. And it's not at all straightforward. E-bikes, oh, that's pretty straightforward. No, because there's Class 1 and Class 2, which are motorized pedal power-assisted bicycles. So bike's little motor system. And then Class 3 and 4 are electric motorcycles, which are quite a whole different thing. And there are different state laws for each one of those, and it's not at all, apparently there's already an issue at Forest Grove. And those are electric motorcycles are the issue.
That's my understanding, yes.
That they exist and young people own them and think, oh, look at the paths they just made for me to ride my electric motorcycle on, and it's not the intended use of those constructed paths. So that's an issue that I guess will be an enforcement issue, right?
Yes, they are actively looking for them.
Yeah.
And of course, they can then say, oh, I'm going to get on my motorcycle and into the woods.
Interesting.
Held down the stream. So anyway, we had a discussion about it, and there's nothing that we were going to propose anytime soon, because it's just a very complicated issue. And I guess really the point is that by law, electrically assisted bicycles are not legal on town roads.
Correct.
And so the thought would be maybe we could change our law to make that legal, but then it's the whole can of fish.
On town pathways, town land, they're not allowed.
Right.
Unless the town board passes legislation allowing them.
Right, they're allowed on the roads, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. They're allowed,
okay.
yeah, excuse me, I misspoke. So it would be town trails, town paths. So anyway, we just had a long discussion and nothing to report because it's not at all easy. Queensbury did have a local law that they passed, but it's Queensbury.
Got it.
Is that something that would also eventually fall under Code and Zoning Revision Committee.
I mean, hypothetically would, but I would need to understand this issue a lot more. And also whether it's desirable. Like, I mean, you guys make a recommendation about the desirability. I'm sure there's a ton to study. So let's just see what the recommendation looks like and...
I think we may talk about it a little more, but there was not a great amount of enthusiasm to pursue this. Right. Is that correct?
So then it probably would not.
And again, the Queensberry was a local law,
right? Not
part of their zoning code, so. Trying to make some effort on a resident survey to get interest and gauge people's interest and desire for, I guess, mostly bicycle routes, but also just general access, alternative access around town. So we're kind of putting that out. Steve, of course, is going away tomorrow. So, not sure. Was the intent to try and get this in the newsletter as like an insert? I don't think that's going to happen. But who knows?
All right.
Maybe we can just put something together, because he had a template of a thing and spoke about it briefly.
So we'll have to work on that.
One very interesting idea came up from Jim Deloria, who's a professional in creating and executing paths around the state, and he said that he and Steve both attended a webinar from National Grid. And National Grid said, come listen to our webinar. I listened to it today, and it's really quite fascinating. So if you can picture the right-of-way where the power lines are. They're like 50 feet wide, and they're generally kind of flat. And if you can, it's a very sort of long-range plan, but I think it's something we really should think about pursuing. If you can come up with a fully engineered, fully funded program, you could ask National Grid, they'll give you approval to say, yes, you can put a walking bicycle path under their power lines.
I think it'd be very valuable.
So picture if you sort of say, as an example, start at Smith Bridge and go straight north. Jim said you could get all the way to Moreau.
Wow.
And so, because the power lines in there are not going to go away. And they do maintain them, they clean them. I believe the National Grid goes through and keeps the brush down more than annually, but at least annually.
Right.
But if you were to make a cinder path, if the town were to make a cinder path, the trick is that the going in entry thing is that you have to have it fully engineered and fully funded and have that all be able to present that to National Grid to say, here's the money, here's the engineering that we've paid for and accomplished of what you propose and how it would be built and who would build it. And please give us permission, then they'll look at it. So it's not easy, but Boston did one. Do you know the Boston one at all? Veterans Way?
Veterans Way?
Yeah.
Zim Smith.
But they just had an example on their slideshow that there's one in Boston. I thought it might be interesting to contact whoever did that project and go look at it. So that was alternative transportation. Had a very good first meeting with Emergency Services Planning Committee. Mike Hewitt, Wilton Fire Chief, agreed to be my co-chair and give me his experience and expertise, which I am completely lacking in. Nash Alexander is the head of the Wilton Wilton Ambulance Emergency Corporation. Dwayne Bogardus is the Greenfield Firehouse representative. Paul Koneski is a career EMS administrator. He's our secretary and a Maple Ave Firehouse Life member. Nate King is from Maple Ave Firehouse and the Wilton Emergency Corps, and his son Zach is the chief of Maple Ave Firehouse. So a really very fine group of experienced, dedicated first responders.
Great.
And so we had a long discussion, starting with sort of what the parameters of this committee could be, and Mike said that he would like us to focus sort of on the 5-year and 10-year horizon, because that's the sort of planning we need to do, because currently, especially with firemen, it's a all-volunteer group. And keeping and retaining and maintaining a volunteer fire department is harder every year. I offered them, and I certainly hope they're going to take us up on it, to put a presentation in the forthcoming newsletter to ask the Wilton residents, say, please join us. We need you. We need
Yeah, I think
volunteers.
that's a good idea.
So they will do that. Dwayne spoke about perhaps a method the town could offer a tax benefit to full-time volunteers, or volunteers who maintain their hours. And I think that's something that we should look into. There was apparently a state proposal that the state would give an exemption to volunteer firefighters, and it, I believe, was not passed at the state, sadly.
I don't know that it ever went to a vote at the state. There was a vote on whether or not that legislation, which would provide a $2,500 tax credit.
That's correct.
To volunteers in EMS or fire. The negative vote that was taken was to not have the bill go through the appropriate committee in the state assembly and even possibly the Senate and go straight to the floor. And so I don't think that's dead.
Oh, good.
I think it just might be delayed.
So it was more of a internal bureaucracy kind of thing at
Absolutely.
At the legislature.
So,
Because that would be a meaningful...
And there are multiple bills, by the way, some more generous than one more generous than the other in terms of what that tax credit would be.
But if this group spoke to the fact that if it was a $2,500 credit, that'd be a meaningful amount for their volunteers, for the people in town, as a way of sort of thanking them and supporting them, but also giving them a meaningful break. So perhaps we should call our state representatives and say, well, where is this? And
find out from Carrie Warner.
I spoke with Assemblyman Carrie Warner about it, and she was co-sponsoring a similar bill. So hopefully we'll see some action.
Now they're wrapping up because they released the budget today. They'll finish their session, so this is probably not going to happen right away, or?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Would it be worthwhile for us to call again to speak to Carrie, or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and Jim Tedisco, the Senate.
So it's sort of still in play?
Yes, that's my understanding, as of just a couple of days ago.
Great.
And just to sort of put it in a framework, Joe and I visited and, met the folks at the two firehouses, and we went separately to the ambulance service, but the firehouses are fully volunteer, and some of you folks here in this room have that experience yourselves, so you know very well, but it's a tremendous commitment of time to be a volunteer firefighter, and the amount of trainings and certifications and maintenance of your training, it's really, this is not a, volunteer a couple hours a week averaged out over the year. It's a tremendous commitment, and everybody has regular day jobs or regular jobs because it is volunteer work. So to acknowledge these folks and try and help them get some kind of financial benefit, I think is actually really appropriate.
But beyond that, there's perhaps something that the town of Wilton can do on our own without waiting for the state to give a break.
Fire tax exemption?
Yeah.
We can set an example.
Right.
Yeah.
No specific request yet, but I think it's something I would like to pursue to support the firehouse. Paul Koneski and Zach King both spoke to their frustrations in dealing with planning and the Zoning Board of Appeals, mostly planning, when it comes to their recommendations to do more things in new development. And the planning board says, well, it's in the code, they're meeting the minimum code, and the fireman's suggestion is like, okay, well, that's the minimum, but it really would be helpful to add a second fire hydrant, for example. And so perhaps that's something that would be a code thing, something that we could invite the firemen to speak to you, because there's nothing that says we can't upgrade our code, go beyond are we based basically in the state code? Is that our model?
State fire code.
Right.
That's the guidelines that everybody decides.
But we can go beyond that if we choose.
It's complicated. We want to be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, they're asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff that potentially would never be used.
Right.
So we're asking this for, developers to, enhance their site for things that, yeah, it's great, it'd be great to have these things, but there's a cost to it, cost benefit.
Right.
That needs to be looked at.
There's ongoing question of maintenance of fire hydrants and specifically access fire hydrants into wintertime. And I asked Connor to throw this into his hopper. I don't know if you're gotten there yet? Or
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Would you need the fireman to come and speak with you, or?
Not yet.
It's just,
Not yet. What I did say is I talked to Eric about having him attend one of your meetings to discuss best and get to know the people that are working on these issues.
Yeah.
So, I talked to you about it, talked to him about it. I'm going to connect you guys in the next week or so. Just to start a dialogue.
The fire hydrants are there in people's properties, and there's nothing to encourage them to keep them clear in the wintertime.
Right.
The EMS building is at the end of its life currently. They have a plan they've put a good amount of effort into adding and renovating the existing structures. The oldest structure is 45 years old, the newest structure is 24 years old. So they have a plan that they've done a significant amount of work on, but then there was the whole change of property. There was property added to their land. So now they could actually not do that and do a new building. So that board of directors is wrestling with that decision. They don't have any work done to do a new construction, but they may address that. So we're going to have our next meeting at the ambulance center so that all the members can see it. I mean, they probably all know it well anyway. That'll be an issue before the EMS and the town, I think probably sooner rather than later, because again, they do have a proposal they've fleshed out of doing an addition and remodel and sort of reconfiguring the whole existing building. One thing that if they did do a new structure, it could become the town's emergency operations center, which officially is the conference room here, and no really facilities to support that. So in an emergency, you'd have to bring in the computers and everything you need to have an operations center. And there would be funding available to create a new emergency operations center. So it makes sense both logistically and from a funding point of view. And then this room here or Gavin Park was been mentioned, but Gavin is not really ideal because that's actually the shelter. That's the main muster place for sheltering folks. So you really don't want to have your operations center at your shelter. Yeah. But Gavin could be the backup. But currently, am I correct, right? It's the conference room, which has a TV and I guess a phone line. So that would be part of an EMS project. And I think it would make perfect sense to have an EOC there because they're already a 24/7 operation.
Right.
Nash Alexander is going to work on having some numbers to talk about what they've already put the effort in on, because they've just done ideas and preliminary design drawings.
Right.
They don't have any ideas of numbers of that, but he was going to try and get some ballpark figures together. And then we discussed battery energy storage systems. And they actually showed me there was a fire in someone's garage where a portable drill battery burned. And the garage was so tight, the doors were closed and the door to the house was closed, it just smoldered, covered the whole garage with a 1/4 inch of soot. Just your basic home drill, which is disturbing. But they said if the man had opened the door, anyone in the house had opened the door, it would have gone So that was their sort of example of, bad things that can happen with lithium-ion
We
batteries.
should ban drills.
So they will be, and I will make sure that they get the notice about our public hearing for next month, because I think they'll certainly want to come and speak to the moratorium, because I think it's a proper thing to do, because it's not forever.
Right.
Gives the town a little breathing room and come up with the proper regulations.
Right.
All right.
That's what we talked about.
Thank you very much. Okay, Comptroller's report, Maria.
Thank you, Supervisor. So our first category is our 2026 budget transfers, and the first item under that is the need for a federal single audit for 2026. We needed a federal single audit this year, for 2025, because we have expended more than $1 million worth of federal aid, and that is resulting from spending ARPA money that we fully dispersed by December 31st of 2025, as well as the federal aspect of the two roundabouts. We're still in the preliminary and design phases of those two projects, but it is 80% federally funded, so that's federal money that we're spending. I do anticipate needing a single audit in 26 and 27 going forward, because we will be continuing with design phase and into construction for those same projects. Once we spend over that number, then that signals the need for that audit. So I need to increase 2026 budget for the 2025 single audit. The second item is the change order for our pickleball court, which was brought up, and I wanted to address the question that was brought before the board. So when we received the information that there was a change order, we pulled the bids just to verify that none of the bidders included this work with their response, and none of them did, because our specifications did not include this work. But it came to pass that this is needed. This is for the posts and the sleeves for the nets. So there are 3 courts on this, 60-foot court area, and the cost is $7,200. So also in comparing the cost for these pickleball courts, the first bid from RMMI, which is the company that we are working with, they were the lowest bidder, came in at about $118,000. The second bid came in at about $160,000, and the third and final bid came in at $177,000. So even if you were to add the $7,200 to the first bid, and even if the second bid included the work, which it did not, you're still below that second bid.
I'm sorry, can you just tell me, just out of my ignorance, what is a change order?
Oh, sorry. So a change order is any difference that happens after the bid is presented. So the first step is, we send our specifications out to the vendors to, come back with a number.
Yeah.
How much would it cost to do this specific work? So as the vendor is in doing the work, the awarded vendor is in there doing the work, they think that we're going to have to increase the amount that you're going to have to pay on this project because there's more work. There's work that we did not anticipate. There's something different that happened. We just had the reverse scenario with the fishing pier where our project price came down by $5,000. So it could go either way. Mostly it goes up.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So sometimes some change in the work that becomes evident while the work is happening.
And that's after the acceptance of the bid.
Correct.
That's interesting.
Correct.
And sometimes the change is dictated by, by us, where we say, you know what, as long as you're here, we want to have this done, tell us how much it's going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, the integrity of the bid is intact because nobody included that work on their response. So there was no gray area here, but that was the first thing I looked at. What came back? What exactly came back? Compare them all. And then the cost of the bid was vastly different, such that even adding the $7,200 still brought our lowest bidder to lowest bid.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Yes, of course. The third item under the budget transfer is just a reclassification of where we're budgeting the cherry asphalt release, which is a material that's used for the highway trucks to keep them clean. Mike will know more about what it does, but so it's $9,900, which we do incur an expense every year for this particular material, but it's where it was budgeted that caused the difference in the need for the budget transfer. So those are our 3 budget transfer requests.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The second category is our budget amendments, and the first item, actually the first 2 items are related. It is to increase the amount that we're transferring to the highway fund for the cost of repairing and replacing a damaged guide rail on Corinth Mountain Road. There was an accident recently, and the guide rail has to be repaired and replaced at a cost of $8,000. So we're going to leverage some surplus funding that came in from our commercial alterations and permits to increase the appropriation for the transfer to the highway fund from the general fund. And then the highway fund will increase its transfer from the general fund, and the spending for the appropriation will be increased for the repair.
Could I ask, and maybe this is just like not how it's done, but why does the insurance company of the person that caused the accident why are they not liable for the cost?
That is being pursued.
Great. Great.
We're still waiting for the insurance information from the sheriff's office. But ultimately, we have to fix the rail.
Right. Okay.
We hope to get reimbursed.
Easy.
From the insurance company. I have the information, the accident case number.
Yes, and that is the typical way it goes when it's a third party that causes the damage.
Got it. Thank you.
So this might likely come back to us.
It may come back to us, we don't know how much, but this is the cost for the actual repair, and if we can get some amount back, that's better than nothing. Yeah. And now the third item is, typically we have 2 lines for each transfer topic, but this one is different because last year in November, we created the appropriation for the fishing pier. And in that appropriation, we had an appropriation from our fund balance in the general fund to raise the money to transfer to the capital projects fund. That portion, that expenditure in the capital projects fund is happening, has happened, and our purchase order from last year carried forward to 2026. So the appropriation still stands in the capital projects fund. What needs to be re-established is the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund. So that's why there's only 1 line item. And we did in fact spend most, we only have the retainage left and remaining on the fishing pier. So it's only another $9,000 that we have left to pay on the fishing pier. But I'm asking for the full $196,000, which was actually spent in the capital projects fund, to be transferred, just to recognize the accounting entry for it, so that everything balances. So that was item 3. Items 4 and 5 are related because now we're talking about our payments to individuals for the right-of-way access on the Carr Road and Jones Road roundabouts. So there are maybe 15 or 16 people that will be getting payments through this process, but this represents the cost of just the first 3 that have signed their agreements, and we've sent the agreements to council, who's reviewing them, just to make sure that the agreements are, the town's interests are being protected with that. We are still waiting for the state and local government agreement that will enable the state to process the reimbursement of the federal money to the town. But other than that, I would like to set up the appropriation this way: when all of the ducks are in a row, we're ready to cut the checks. So that's what this is doing. This is leveraging the appropriated fund balance to transfer to the capital projects fund of $76,400, which, like I said, was just for those first 3. So you'll hear this tune often during the year in terms of, as each project or as each person's agreement is signed, we'll be asking for more money to cover those later.
And just, Ryan, if you could, the reason this amount is so big, because some of these easements that are being, or right-of-way that is being requested is a temporary easement, just asking the town to be able to step on someone's property while they're constructing the multi-use path along Carr Road. Some of them are permanent easements, some of them are outright purchases, but what makes up the bulk of this number is from basically McGregor Links, and it's, how many acres? 8 something?
I don't think it's 8, but it's a large portion, and the owners of McGregor Links understands that this is a significant traffic safety improvement project, and they're there every day and see numerous accidents, so they're more than willing to work with the town and take this project out.
But by far, their chunk of land was way, 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 way bigger than, anybody else of the easements that have to be procured for this
And these are
project.
easements, not fee purchase.
Both.
Some of each.
Can I ask,
Some of each.
would this hypothetically also qualify for the county trails grant?
It's already included in the federal funding. This whole project is funded by federal grant that covers 80% of the fee, and then, so
You couldn't use the county any grant money for this.
Got it.
You can't use it for the federal aspect. You might be able to use it for the 20% that is town-based. So it's a possibility if the eligibility is there. It's definitely a possibility.
Well, just something to consider, keep in mind.
but all of these amounts, we will end up paying 20% of the cost, and the feds are paying 80% for this entire project. All right.
So those are our 2026 budget amendments.
I'll make a motion to approve budget amendments 1 through 5.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. No abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And now, on the flip side, we have personnel. That's our third item. Scott Harrington, who is our facility maintenance supervisor for another 12 days. So would like to hire Gregory LePan as a building maintenance mechanic at the step 2 rate of $27.30 an hour. And if approved, Mr. LePan will start after he notices his current employer. All of his paperwork has been done and received back, and he's ready to go.
I'll make a...
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Maria.
Do you want me to do item B?
Oh, sure.
I did pause, that was my fault, sorry. Mike Monroe is our highway superintendent, and he was requesting to attend the 2026 annual highway school from June 1st to June 3rd. It's at Ithaca College, and since the event entails overnight travel, the town board is requested to approve that.
May I make a motion now, Maria?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 personnel items.
Second.
Good job.
Connor got it? Joe. Okay. And all in favor? Aye. And no abstentions? And no disapprovals, and motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And lastly, we have the disposal of assets. Scott Harrington is requesting to place 3 retractable bollards on Auctions International. They were purchased several years ago, not used, and they're taking up space in the garage, basically. So, the second item is we have a concession trailer that can be listed on Auctions International. And lastly, Mike Monroe is requesting to place used dump bodies and other miscellaneous items on Auctions International.
Mike, what are dump bodies?
Are we learning the mob?
Just what they sound like.
Trucks over the past 5 or 6 years, so we have 3 old bodies that we cut everything off that we can salvage.
You mean the big, the box? The box, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve all these.
So I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed and any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Can I mention one other thing related to the controller's report? I was interviewed by a member of the audit team that was doing the town's audit, and she was very complimentary about Ms. Moran and how the ease with which she had to work, the quality of our records, the accuracy, etc. So well done.
Good work.
Thank you. Oh, and the audit manager will be here next month to present the audit financial statements to the board. Thank you very much.
All right, and requesting a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes.
8:30 was what you said earlier?
Thank you. No, thank you.
Close enough.